Welcome back to the channel, my name is Jack, and these are Freewell's new wide-angle and anamorphic lenses for the DJI Mini 3 Pro. Full disclosure, Freewell have sent me these for free to review, but this video is not sponsored by them. I've been testing them out for the last few days, and I think that they're really useful tools to have for your Mini 3 if you're trying to get a certain look or have a more sort of cinematic feel to your drone footage. So stick around and I'll show you some test footage that I've shot with them and tell you everything that you need to know about these nifty little add-ons. Both the lens attachments come in this plastic carry case that shuts magnetically, and something that I really like about these lenses is they also come with a set of 5 ND filters, specifically for these lenses. They range from ND16 doubling up to ND256. DJI does make their own wide lens, but without any way of mounting an ND filter to it, so I'm really glad to see that Freewell's making sure that you can still use an ND with their lenses. Now, I have covered ND filters on the channel before and how you can use them to get much smoother drone footage, so I won't go into that too much here, but I will link to my video talking about that in the description below. Those Freewell NDs mount onto the Mini 3 by removing the lens cap and they go directly onto the camera gimbal, but the ones in this set are specifically made for these lenses. The lenses themselves mount to the Mini 3 in the place of the lens cap, they just twist on, nice and simple. And then the included ND filters can be slotted onto either the wide or anamorphic lenses. They clip on and they feel nice and secure. Oh, and that lens cap does actually fit in the lens case too, so you can keep it secure and nice and safe. And you will notice that when mounting the lens, that the drone will recognise that it's been attached and it will display it in the top of the DJI Fly app. Now, something just to point out is that Freewell recommends installing either of the lenses to the drone first, and then powering it on so that it completes the gimbal calibration, and then mounting one of the ND filters afterwards. These lens attachments are quite big and they can sometimes catch the top of the drone when it calibrates, but Freewell said that they've tested it on a bunch of Mini 3s and it's not caused any issues. And I've not had any issues with it in my use so far. But I'd also say sort of before flying, just sort of move the drone around a little bit and see how it reacts. Every Mini 3 will have different tolerances, so it's good to do a pre-flight check like always. In terms of weight, the anamorphic plus an ND comes in at 3 grams, and the wide angle plus an ND at 3.1 grams. Now officially, DJI doesn't actually say an exact weight for the Mini 3 Pro, they just said that it's less than 249 grams, making it a class 0 drone. So just know that by mounting these lenses, you could be putting the drone over the 250 gram limit, and therefore making it a class 1 drone. So just make sure that you're following all of the rules and regulations of class 1 drones in the country that you're flying in. For some comparison next, this footage is from the Mini 3 Pro with no lens mounted. It has a field of view of 82.1 degrees as standard. This is with the wide lens now attached. It gives you a much wider field of view at 111 degrees, fitting even more into the frame. And this is the anamorphic. This squeezes the image horizontally, fitting more into the sides of the frame. And then when desqueezed, you end up with this really cinematic wide look with black bars at the top and bottom of the frame. We'll get more into that later and I'll show you how you can desqueeze the footage yourself. It's really simple. But first, let's look at some more footage with the wide lens. This is great for when you want to show more in the frame. For example, when you're shooting some landscape shots, you can capture a nice big sweeping vista. Wide angles have the effect of exaggerating distances between objects. They make things that are closer to the lens look even bigger, and things that are further from the lens look even smaller. So you can use that effect to get even more of a sort of dynamic looking shot. Now there is some distortion happening here, which is not uncommon with wide-angle lenses. You'll notice the curvature on the horizon off in the distance, so that is just something to be aware of. But you can do some lens correction in post to fix that if you wanted. One thing I did notice though was that sometimes the lens would affect the drone's autofocusing. A few times after I'd sort of tapped to focus in an area, the drone would then refocus to its minimum focus, so I did end up with a couple of shots that were blurry without realising. And I had cleaned the lens before shooting to make sure that nothing was on it. So just make sure that your shots are actually in focus, or better yet, switch to manual focus so that you have that extra control. When the Mini 3 detects that a wide lens is mounted, it does disable panoramas, and that's because of how much wider the individual shots would be. The drone just wouldn't know how to stitch those together. But I've not found anything else that it has disabled. And you can still shoot in portrait orientation for anyone wondering. Over to the Anamorphic, and I love these lenses. They really add a cinematic feel to your footage. They work by squeezing the image horizontally to fit a wider view into the frame, and then once de-squeezed, which I'll show you how to do in a moment, you end up with this footage with black bars at the top and the bottom of the frame with an even wider aspect ratio, without having to just stick those fake black bars on top of your footage and waste some of that image. Anamorphics come with different squeeze factors, and this particular one is a 1.19x. More commonly you'll find 1.33 anamorphics, like the mobile anamorphics that I've shown on the channel before, and these give you an even wider look. But Freewell said that a 1.33 would need to be even thicker and would be heavier, and it just wouldn't be usable on the Mini 3. It would just be too heavy for its gimbal. So instead they settled on 1.19, so we have something that we can actually use. Because of the cylindrical shape of Anamorphics, you will again see some curvature on the horizon and some blurring at the edges, but personally I think that it really adds to the cinematic feel here. And you also get some really cool looking lens flares from any bright lights in the scene. Now it has been pretty overcast and just cloudy lately in the UK, it's just typical autumn weather, so I don't always have the sun to give me those flares, but I can show you them here using a light. You get these very distinct blue flare lines. They can give your footage some unique character and really make it stand out. I had a ton of fun shooting with this lens, I just loved the look of it. I felt like I was filming a little film out in the countryside. And you can still use things like master shots and quick shots and active track for following or tracking a subject. And you can still use photography modes, again apart from panoramas. As the Anamorphic is squeezing a wider image into the frame, the live view that you see in the DJI Fly app is also squeezed too. Although I haven't really found it any more difficult to frame and compose my shots as it is only slight, but you are going to need to manually de-squeeze the video files in something like Premiere or Final Cut, which is what I use to edit with. And there are a few ways that you can do this, but perhaps the simplest is to select the clip in the timeline, go over to scaling in the video inspector, and for this 1.19 squeeze factor, you want to change the Y scale from 100% down to 84%. And that's it. You can then apply that to all of the clips that you need to de-squeeze. I have also used the Desqueeze app for iPhone and iPad a couple of times, which is great for when you're on the go and away from your computer. So I'll link to that below so you can check it out too. I think that these are a great set of lenses from Freewell. They give you so much versatility for getting more into the frame with the wide lens if you're flying in a tighter space, or you're just wanting to capture some nice big landscape shots. The Anamorphic can give your footage a really unique filmic look with that wider aspect ratio and flaring, and can really take your drone footage to another level. I'll put some links in the description. The Anamorphic here gives you blue flares, and really the only thing I'd like to see is for Freewell to make a gold flare version too, so we can have some more neutral looking flaring. And the fact that you can still use NDs with these means that you're not having to choose between shooting with the lenses or shooting with NDs to get smoother, less choppy footage. You can do both. I would have liked to see them include an ND8 in the set too for those less bright days or evenings, and there is actually an empty 6 slot in the case that isn't used for anything, so I would have liked to have seen an extra filter there. But definitely go check out my ND filter video if you want to learn more about how they work. Big thanks to Freewell for sending me these to review. Let me know in the comments what you think, or if you've got any questions you can hit me up as well. If you found the video helpful, you can hit the like button to let me know, and if you want to see more tech videos from me, hit subscribe and the bell. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.